Hello, and welcome to Stargazing Productions Presents my first art tutorial. We're going to be doing this weekly. A lot of people have asked and requested for me to do some art tutorials because they'd love to see how I create my pieces. And honestly, love the outpouring of support for me doing this, and that's why I'm doing it in the first place. Thank you so much to everybody who subscribed and checked out all of my stuff I've been putting out recently. And we're going to have more content like this, as well as 20-minute paintings and color my art, which I do on Mondays, where you get to pick the colors I use on a piece. So definitely check that out. But today, we're going to be getting into a piece that I create from scratch, from sketch to finished piece. I'm going to show you the materials I use, how I go about starting it. Hopefully it'll be a fun time. Let's go. Hello, welcome to my first tutorial. I'm going to be doing a piece right here on this piece of paper. This is my first tutorial, so bear with me. I love to use painter's tape. That's a big thing I like to do, just to create shapes and give myself a border. I know a lot of people will say, which I probably should do, paint a little bit of white on it so that it gives it crisper lines. I might do that. But I'm going to kind of give like a little, let's go with a door, a little opening. Now that I have my tape all the way around, it's a shape. It's not entirely anything yet, but the one thing I want to do is go around the edges of this tape and get it nice and tight. Sometimes it'll tear up the stuff. That's why I like this tape. It's painter's tape. I know the frog tape, the green stuff, is better, but I really do like this stuff. I'm just going around and really sealing it. And then what I like to do is I like to keep a little bit of water. And these are my two brushes. I'm using a Lyra Aqua brush. It's got two sides, one small for detailed stuff, and one long, and as you can see, I use it. And same here. And these really are amazing to blend. And what I like to do is dip. I dip it in there, add a little bit of water. I'm gonna dip it, maybe even put it on here. Sometimes I'll put it on the wood, just a little bit of water so I can really deteriorate that. I know there's other ways to do this, but so what I want to do is get a little sunset. I need a light base, and I'm going to make a circle. And you can kind of see the sun in the middle, but I want to keep that light as can be, and we'll go into the darker. But see how I'm moving it around like that? Just to give it a circular shape. Then we're going to go in and start adding a little more darker shapes. But I'm going to bring the yellow all the way to the end, pretty much. Not all the way, but I am going to bring it out. Now it's starting to get darker because the water started to fade, which is exactly what I want. So I can get that darker shade in there. Add a little more water, just to lighten it up around the middle. So it's lighter on the outside and darker on the inside. So we're kind of doing a fade thing. So, we kind of got the base, and I know it looks sketchy right now, but trust me, when you blend it all. Alright, it is time to blend another color, which I'm going to do right now. I'm going to add a little bit of this red, but since it's the outside, I'm going to keep it a little dark. I won't add the water yet. I'm going to keep this on the edges of this dark, because it's going to come out to it. These edges dark so that it pops. Looks like it's fading out. But you need to start dark so that you can go light here in a second, and then we'll blend the yellow with a paintbrush. So I want to give it a little bit of touches in there. Remember to get these corners kind of dark. Keep it kind of dark. I know it looks like a bullseye right now, but it's going to look like something different here in just a sec. Always try to remember to put your lids on. I'm terrible at that. So, here we go. So, for this next part, I have a wet brush. I'm going to dip. We're just going to bring that yellow and red together. We're going to blend it all, pull it out. I might even want to add a little more, just so it blends in. I'm going to drop my pen. See, now that it's wet, you can bring it out a little and it won't does now, but trust the process. It will get better. Bring it all in a little bit on the sides here. Blend those colors. I want to dry my brush a little bit when I bring it in here so I can actually blend it so it doesn't have those lines. That's the one thing you don't want is harsh lines. That was a little too much paint, or too much water, sorry. So we go blend. It's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty fine. It's got that orange hue. Now we're gonna want to bring the red out a little more. So it goes from red to orange to yellow. And sometimes you have to go back over it 1,000 times, but you get to the point where it starts looking good. And it can have some definition, I was gonna say. If it has, as you can see, some of these spots are not completely covered. That's okay. It has a little bit of a brush to it. One, you can smooth it out too with your hand. That's one thing I definitely do a lot of, because it will blend. It will start to give it its own context. You don't want to go too hard on it though. Just lightly taking all these little bits off. And then, so let's go a little more red down here. I want it deeper. Because one thing I was gonna do is bring these up like some foliage, and later on it'll look better because I'll add highlights. You want to remember to make your lines with this stuff. Not that I'm perfect at it by any means, but you just want to bring it in one direction. Creative with it. And then one thing I love to do is for these pieces is bring down lines, but you want to have them arch, hanging off of a tree. Kind of looks like a mouth right now. Once I add the other stuff, you'll see. All right, we got our first 2 layers. Now that we have a rough outline of what it is, we're gonna come in with some ink or Sharpie. I'm using a Sharpie right now just because I have one that's gonna work with this. So what do I want to do? I want to make a tree. And I do my trees kind of differently. I add a lot of spirals, and I have a lot of it feeding into itself. And I want to show that this tree is behind some of these things, so I'm just gonna, it's kind of like in fire underwater. Add some little foliage back here, and then we're gonna, honestly, I might legit just have this be a silhouette instead of, maybe not, I don't know, I kind of like it. That's the process of drawing. You gotta figure out what you're doing as you go. Because I like that you can see the red, but I also could turn it into a silhouette, and it might look better with the background. I'm gonna do a silhouette. I think it'll look better. That just means going in with ink and marker, and after I've done it, see, I made a decision. I gotta stick to it now, at least with the trees. Go back in, and we'll do one behind this stuff. Man, this thing's all gunked up, but that's okay. The best thing with silhouettes is you can overlap them, so I can have this come up over here. And it'll give it a little bit of depth. I'm not the best teacher. This is the first time I'm doing a tutorial, so I'll learn, and then you'll learn, and we'll both learn together. I'm going to come in here with a fine Sharpie around these to give them a little more definition. I do sometimes add, if I want to, I would like to add a little bit of red, but I don't want it to be too red. I want it to be background. Maybe you can come back in with the orange, or yellow, sorry. Just give it a little one so that looks better. And then again, I'm going to go back in with my Sharpie and give it some definition. You can add them however you want. It doesn't have to follow the line that you created. You can, it definitely helps. Try to go even lighter on these ones because they're behind, so you want them to be a little less defined. Accents, I do go all over the place. I feel like I get bored. If that happens to you, let me know. I'd love to know your process of creating art, and maybe it could help me improve mine. I listen to music. A lot of the time I'll light a candle, set the mood. I'm just trying to finish up what I started. All the detail work does take a little bit, but once you get it done, the finished product will look sweet. I still haven't even done the highlights. do like this though. And then one thing I like to do, I'm a huge fan of spirals. So every once in a while, I'll just add them into the trees, give it a little character, get a little fantasy aspect of it. Because it's one of my favorite things to draw is fantasy scenes. And I don't know why spirals are so fantastical, but they are. So if you add them to something like this, it gives it a little more magic. And then I also am gonna add little circles for all the ends of these. And you can add it so it gives it a little more depth. Some more of these into the yellow. Just if you keep adding them, it'll look like it has a whole forest of long grass. I'm adding this for contrast at the end. Give it a little more depth from the corners. When I take the tape off, maybe add a few birds. Yeah, this thing looks sweet. I'm gonna do the reveal of the tape and then finish it out. Let's do this reveal. You take it off in the same way you put it on. It should all come off in one big swoop. There we go. Now this is looking like a pretty cool piece, but what we can do on the outside to give it a little more life and give it a little more magic is add on the outside a design, a border to keep it in. Sometimes I'll do a door, sometimes right now I'm gonna do a tree that is holding this thing together, or you're peeking into this tree. Trees to me are easy as long as you just keep adding little lines and it's growing. You should be able to follow this. Sometimes I'll just add some weird stuff to the tree. Honestly, like I said, it's hard for me to describe some of the stuff I'm doing, because it'll look good once it's done, but just trust the process. Lots of swoops coming in. Make sure they're different though, because you don't want the same swoop every time. And then lots of lines around the curves to follow them, like bark wood. As you can see, it's kind of coming together. Now I need to figure out what I'm doing up here. Let's have it make a little branch, so we also should be doing that. And a big thing too that helps me make something look like a tree is add a little knot hole where a little creature could be, and then around that add accents like I've been doing. And for here we're gonna add 2 lines, and what we will do is have this other branch doing the exact opposite. I draw my trees like muscles. I feel like they really do look like muscles. With trees, you add more to the branches, and then they get more life, I feel like. That's my take on the matter. And then let's just have this thing growing by itself.
We're gonna go ahead and speed this up just a little bit to show you all a bit of the process. Like I said, the basics are just lining everything in to add to the bark feel and give it more texture. I'm adding here, as you can see, another little knot that'll add to any tree that you have. So go ahead and try it for yourself, and we're gonna get to the highlights here in just a second.
Remember to add, even into these little crevices, some more detail. Thing I've learned too, of course, with shading or anything like that, if you want to learn how to do my style, the big thing I'll do is find spots to just give accents to, right? Any crevice. So right here, let's add a few lines, give it a little bit of depth. So how about right here? And it just adds a whole new layer when you start doing stuff like that. I like these bended. So if you make a flat surface kind of thing, and then what I'm doing right now, and then add this to it, and add a line down it. Actually, that one turned out kind of terrible, but you get what I'm saying. Like I said, you can do any shape you want with a leaf, as long as it's triangle shaped. Let's add some spirals out here. Give it a little more magic. I was saying, spirals just do that. I don't know why, but I'm telling you that they do. And if you really want to do it like me, add some little dots you can do more than that if you want, but I'm typically always doing around 3 different sizes. Let's add a little. This is looking awesome. I am digging it. Now the only thing I need now is my highlight. Now time for highlights. I was just saying. Now I love these gel pens. These jelly pens. They do run out kind of quickly, but I do love them. They're amazing. I also bought these online, some Milky Pop pens, and these are good too, but they don't always have the smoothest finish. But if you can get your hands on some of these, go for it. That's what we're gonna use as long as it's working. So, remember how we did these little circles? We're gonna add highlights into the little circles. And it's just white little dots in the middle of there. It'll make it pop even more, trust me. And the ones in the red are gonna do the best. So what we're gonna do is add some up here. Just something like this magical place with lightning bugs up in this weird cave forest kind of vibe it's giving me. So you can just add them wherever. And then also one thing I have learned, if you outline these with a little bit of white, it'll really make that contrast look good. So we're gonna do the same thing we did with the white, just to get a little more texture. And if you have any blemishes you want to get rid of on here or anything, and it's white paper, honestly, it really does cover up most things, so it's very helpful for you to use this for other things too. But I love these white gel pens. I cannot tell you how much I love them and how much they make my pieces so much better. So I'm missing a couple here. I want to get, this is kind of going to be, again, highlights for this piece. I am digging it. I do think that I put a little too much on there. So what I'm going to do is go back in with it with the Sharpie. And I also think this needs, going to come in like that. There we go. This looks too. Also, if you want to, the big thing I like to do too is go in front of the sun, this kind of thing. But I didn't really have them go that long, so normally I would do shading on the tree, and I would recommend doing that. I'll probably do that for myself later, but I don't have time for that today. Maybe we can do shading on a different tutorial, but as a basic piece, this is how I go about creating it and the style that I like to use in some cases. Last summer, I got into trying to do pieces with one color, using watercolor and ink and highlights. So just one base color with different shades of that base color. And it made me create these kinds of pieces. I absolutely love how they turn out. If you also like this and this style, go ahead and try it for yourself, and thank you so much for joining me for this episode of my channel. I really appreciate you checking it out and viewing this with me, and maybe learning a little something, maybe not, I don't know. I'm going to do more of these, and I'm sure it'll get better, and hopefully you do too. I'd love for you, please, if you try to do this for yourself, send it to me. I'd love to see it. I'm not going to be upset that you created the same piece. I want to see your version. Thank you so much for checking out my first tutorial here on YouTube. Like, subscribe, put your version of my piece in the comments. I'd love to see what you create. Use different colors, use different styles, do it however you want. Use the influence of what I said, and I'll see you on the next one.